Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
So it was hard, this coming up with the talk that a lot of ministers were talking about. What are you going to talk about on Sunday? People were writing ideas out, long lists of things, and I'm thinking, I'm good, I'll be okay. But, Jack can attest that as of 8:30 this morning, I'm still I was trying to order a book from Amazon, and they had my wrong card, and I'm doing everything but sitting with this talk. Because every time I sat, I was feeling sadness, and I really didn't want to talk about sadness today. So I'm not going to. I just wanted, so here's what comes to me. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and in Cleveland it's cloudy a lot. But I didn't know any better, so I didn't have any thoughts about it. And then for 2 years I moved down to DC with my family, and it was sunnier there and warmer. And it was a revelation, wow. So then I was back in Cleveland. I had a hard time adjusting, but I went to school in Boston. Doesn't snow as much, but really cold a lot of the months of the year. And so I was in therapy. And after we dealt with the big issues, be talking, I'm like, man, this weather, I hate it. And I used to rail against it. And he'd always be like, well, it's probably just stuff that's going on in your own life. And if you were happier, if you would when you get more happy with your own life, they won't bother you. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure they're going to bother me. And he just wasn't buying it. But I decided not to believe him. So when I left Boston, I went to Los Angeles. And I really liked the sun. And I liked it there. It was where I was living. And I thought, in the 40s, it must have been beautiful there before it got so crowded. The weather in Brentwood and West Hollywood was mid-40s to mid-80s. I'm like, this is heaven. And it rained in the winter, but not over. It was cool. Got worse. When I was there was smog and other issues because of people population. But I thought, I missed 4 seasons, went back to DC. Then I thought, nope, didn't miss 4 seasons as much as I thought I did. Back to California. I like sun with some clouds. Julian's now up in Seattle. And I thought Cleveland was cloudy. Oh my gosh. That is weather because I now have the weather app for where he lives. Rainy and cloudy, week after week, month after month. And I would literally, I know this, and I'm not saying this funny, it's actually true. I would have to be on antidepressants if I lived there, because it's just too much, and it would impact me. But I also have a really good friend who lives up there. She's probably one of the happiest, most enthusiastic people I know. Weather doesn't impact her at all. My mom loved cold, cloudy weather. Everyone is different, but too much cloudiness gets me really down. It impacts me. What does this have to do with anything? What I found was, so for me, I know people have different responses. For me, the day after the election, I felt sad. And I really was grateful. We had people from our community join us online Wednesday night that joined the prayer team. And people shared what was going on for them. And then we prayed. And everyone prayed twice, because you need double the sunshine when you have dark clouds. So that was great. But what I was finding is every time I got online, and I've really been able to withdraw myself from all social media except for Facebook, I still stay on. And there's just a lot of everyone's feeling their feelings, and there's a lot of people talking about feeling sad, scared, all these different things. And what I found, it was like moving into, okay, now there's too many clouds. It was just too much. And I start moving into what we heard in John O'Donohue talking about, it moves into despair. Oh, everybody's feeling this. They're not everybody. It was just the people that the people that I tend to follow on Facebook share similar values that I do, or so not everybody, but most. So it was a group of people that this was the appropriate response, was to feel sad. So everyone's feeling sad, and if we don't think that we have race consciousness in the spiritual progressive world, I have learned whenever there's a big event in the country, I can go on social media, and if I just watch it for a day, I know exactly how I'm supposed to feel and how I'm supposed to respond. There is a peer pressure, just saying. And so there seems to be, we're all feeling our feelings. And so I have a tendency to be a little bit rebellious. And so I'm like, I don't want to feel sad anymore. Just stop with all the feelings. And because it's the same thing that I feel in Seattle. Like, I like clouds and rain, but day after day, week after week, month after month, enough. I'm going down to LA, where it's pretty. Or here, Livermore, sunny. This is really important. Because what I found as I was listening to people is that often there was like, okay, yes, God works. It's important to do God, and our thinking is important and stuff. But feel your feelings. Everything was about feel your feelings. Feelings have become predominant on our journey. What I can say for my own, I can only speak for myself. For myself, the depth of my spiritual journey all comes from not taking my feelings too seriously. When I was in therapy, it was all about feeling your feelings, and then feeling your feelings some more, and then feeling your feelings some more. And it was somehow you were supposed to get to lightness from that, but I never did. It wasn't until I came to New Thought and said, oh, there's this presence that's saying it's already fine. There's this presence that's the sunshine that says, oh, there's beauty here even now. Even in the midst of clouds, there's beauty and there's light. It was such a relief after 4 years of going, well, what's my problem today? What's my cloud today that I'm going to talk about? And I had to search for clouds after a while because I didn't know how to quit therapy, so I just kept going. And when I went to a practitioner session, it was amazing because I did the same thing I did in therapy, but it started in prayer and it ended in prayer. And I remember going to Reverend Joan Stedman, who was a practitioner at Agape at the time, and I'd pour out a lot of the same stuff that I pour in therapy, and then she would pray, and it was like it just dissipated and dissolved. And so I didn't come out of the office feeling like this heaviness and like I've just shared all my feelings, or just a relief like, oh, good, glad I vented there. But it felt healed. Like I could vent, and then in the presence of spirit, in presence of prayer, even if it didn't last and I had to continue to get prayer on an issue, in that moment it was healed. And that was revelatory to me that was even possible. We have to remember that God, this divine presence, is more than everything that's happening. And when we turn to God, so there was a period where we were always turning to God and we were doing spiritual bypass. Oh, it's great. We could go after the election. This is great. It's fine. God's got this. All is well. That's spiritual bypass. We don't want to do that. No. And I'm saying for people, I also want to acknowledge there are people who are not upset about the result, and that's fine. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm just speaking from the people who I tend to commune with, who have the same perspective on things. There was a lot of us collectively who were feeling sad. But the sadness doesn't mean that's more important than God. What I can tell you, just for me personally, I honestly do not think I would be here today. And I don't mean as a minister, I mean on this planet, if I didn't have God. I think I get easily overwhelmed. And I always have since I was little. That's how I had my first spiritual experience, because I was so overwhelmed. I have this very emotional part. Many of us do. I'm not saying I'm special, but I do, like many people. And if I didn't have this power and this presence of God, I would be I wouldn't know how to function in this world, because I just get so upset and agitated and blah, blah, blah. Again, that's not special. A lot of people feel that. But this is the power presence of God. I've never known really how to address when people talk about, I don't have the discipline you do for spiritual practices. Because for me, spiritual practices are not a discipline, they are a survival skill. I don't go, oh, should I do? I have to. I have to know the divine presence is a source and sustenance of my life every day, because I can't function without it. I'm not bought in on this earth. I don't go buy in like, this is a great earth and I want to conquer it and have all my dreams. I constantly see the problems. I constantly see the people who are in pain. I see the people who are suffering. I see the great stuff too, but I see the hard, and you can't feel things and I can't anyways. You can, maybe. I can't feel things and not get overwhelmed by them. So it is that very feeling of overwhelm and emotions that turn me towards this presence. And then as I got older, I realized, I can't just do this once in a while. I have to do this every day. This is like a daily practice. Some of you are in 12-step programs. It's my 12-step program. I have to do my practices every day to stay centered in this divine reality. And what happens is, because of that incredible need, I start to experience this incredible reality far beyond anything that's happening here. And I'm like, oh man, this is awesome, right? When you experience the divine, isn't there awe? And like, this is amazing, this presence. Like all this stuff that feels like we have no choice and horrible things are happening. We get tied up in this knot. Let's just say we're in this knot, and here's one political party, and here's the other political party, or one perspective, and we're in this knot. And when the opposite person that we want is in there, and they start making their policies, then the knot gets tighter and squeezes tighter. And then the more we try to break free, we can't break free because we're so caught up. Spiritual practices just loosens that whole knot. I really need the wireless mic. I can't do my knot metaphor. It just loosens it up. There still will be a knot. There's still conflict. There's still differences of opinion. But it loosens it us, so we're not so constrained and we're not taken into despair. One of the things that's so fascinating to me about these monks that I read about, they talk a lot about suffering, but they're really like, do not go into despair. That's just a terrible evil. They use that as an evil place to go to. So they're willing to be humble, but not in despair. And I really have had to think about, those are two different things. You can be humble, but not in despair, not powerless, not helpless, because we are none of those things. When we are aligned with that power in the presence, that power moves through us. The infinite power, the oceanic power, the majestic power, whatever language you want to use, moves through our very being, through our soul, through our mind, through our body, and through our heart, and it's extraordinary. The power of our word. Jerry spoke her power of the word, of how much money she wanted to raise, and of course she'll tell you later. I didn't mean to give it away, sorry. But I'm just saying, the power of our word, all of these things, we are powerful beings. Not so powerful that we don't feel. Not so powerful that we don't get sad or scared. We have reason to be scared. We'll get to that later too. But even those human emotions are not as powerful as God. When I first started putting God first and doing my spiritual practices, the thing that I put in my journal at the time, because it was the thing that was blocking me the most, is that it's even more powerful than my emotions. Because for me, my emotions were stronger than my God. Because I had done so much therapy, so much getting in tune with how I felt about everything and processing everything, that was beginning to, but it already was dominating my human experience. And I wanted God to dominate my human experience. I wanted this divine love and power and joy, and I still want that. I'm not saying I'm there, but I know what I want. Is this power and this presence of infinite oceanic love to move through us. So as we're moving through whatever we're moving through, yes, be authentic with our feelings. Yes, think things through. Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? But always, always, always start with God. Meditation for me, I remember giving a talk once years ago, and I don't remember what it was about. I just remember the title. Because in Risky Business, what's the name? Tom Cruise. Yeah, he goes, Portia, there is no substitute. And so I always thought, meditation, There is no substitute. There's no substitute for meditation. Meditation is not just a technique to de-stress ourselves. A lot of people just use it to become less stressful. It's so much more than that. It opens us up to this transcendent reality that is real. Prayer does the exact same thing. Journaling for me also is part of my practices because I do need to express those emotions, but I'm not just writing them out to the world. I'm not just venting to the universe. I'm opening it up to the infinite love intelligence of God, and I then let the infinite love intelligence of God to move through me to heal me in every journaling session. I don't just leave it blah, 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 blah. Okay, good, I'm just venting. No, I want transformation. I want shift. I want alchemical transmutation. These words are just rolling off. I go to the gym and I walk to work it through my body, the emotions through my body. All of these are elements that I use to bring God into every area of my life. Not to do spiritual bypass, but not to get so caught up in the experience here that is more powerful than God. You've all heard what I just came in and went, don't tell my big problems about my little God, tell my little problems about my big God. You know, that's a cute phrase, but it's true. The divine presence is so much bigger than what's happening here today, what's happening in our country. God first. Everyone has their way of saying different traditions, but in the New Testament or Old Testament, love the Lord thy God with thy whole heart, body, mind, and soul. It's the first commandment. And then there's the second commandment is to love one another. One of the ministers shared a video, and I am only halfway through. It's about an hour and 40 minutes. And it's of authors who wrote a book, Belonging Without Othering. And I'm only halfway through the video, but it's good. It's really good. And I'm going to order the book. I don't recommend books until I'm past 3 chapters, because sometimes I get really excited, and then by the 3rd chapter, I'm not so excited. So I don't know, but I love the video. And what they're talking about, because we do the spiritual work, so I'm talking about live your life for God, do all this stuff, but we have this deep, deep desire to belong. And what they were saying is that there's more anxiety now than ever, because there's all these different groups, and people are agitated if you're not in your group, all over the place. And both Republicans, Democrats, agitation. Are you part of the group? Am I safe with these people? Who am I safe with? And so there's this high level of stress. And so they said, let's open to the idea. What we're putting forth is a new paradigm, and we recognize it might take a long time for it to take hold. But what if we had belonging without othering? They said most of our belonging is about we belong to our group and we other the group, another group. So even as I'm talking about my social media, right? I'm talking about it as if my group is like, that's my world. As if there's not all these other people who have lots of different perspectives. There obviously is. Millions. And I've just othered them because I'm talking from my perspective and my group's perspective and how we feel about things, as if that's the only reality. But when we start to recognize people who have different perspectives, I'll speak for myself, recognize that there are people who have different perspectives than me, who are very happy with the election outcomes. And they're not other. They belong to me too. And I belong to them too. It changes things. When we start, and they were talking about how we all do that. They were giving examples. I'm not going to get into them because it was really good, and if I like the book, we'll probably have it as a book of the month. But it's nuanced. That's why I like it. It's not generic. They go into a lot of nuance about the ways all people do this othering. There's no one who's free from it, because we so want to belong to somebody. And what would it be like to be a community where everybody felt like they belonged and they didn't have to always believe everything that the minister believes, or don't have to believe what everyone else in the community believes? That's who we want to be. That's what I believe that we're moving. I love this idea of the new paradigm. But there is one thing that I need to say. I do not believe as a minister, as a public person, that it's my job to take sides. I have my perspective as a person, but not as a that's not what, I'm not saying this is what the Lighthouse believes. I'm saying this is my own personal perspective. And I tend to stay, I definitely can't not be myself. But I do need to say this one thing, because I do think there has to be a boundary in this everybody belongs. Because sometimes what that does is it gets us so heart-centered and so open and so available that we don't see things until they get really dangerous. And what I believe is I can't think of a single minister that I know, at least in the Centers for Spiritual Living, so those are most of the ministers I know, who would get up on the pulpit and violently attack groups of people. Once the language, because we know the power of words, once the language isn't just, I have a different perspective, and you can believe that passionately. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson couldn't even talk to each other at the end of their life. They passionately disagreed. You can have a passionate disagreement with someone, but that is very, very different than violence. And I think what's happened, the reason why there's a different emotional tenor to what's happening in our country is because now violence has entered our speech. And the president-elect has used a lot of violence, against a lot of different groups. And for me, that's crossing a line. That is not acceptable. I can accept different perspectives. I can accept people have different perspective and they feel that he will bring greater business and economy. Great. You can have that belief, I can have my belief, we can have different perspectives. That's fine with me. That's how this whole world is supposed to work. People who have different perspectives, and we have elections and people vote in who they think is going to support their views of what's going to make this country and our world a better place. That's how it's supposed to be. But we're not supposed to violently attack people who are different and make us uncomfortable. Part of what he was saying was that the way 90% of the country still does belonging is by making scapegoats, the people that make us feel uncomfortable, the people that if we just get rid of them, then we'll be fine. If we can just limit their rights and treat them a little bit less than human, we'll be safer. We can feel good about ourselves. That's the old way of belonging. I don't mind if you have your own belonging and you don't feel comfortable with other people in your belonging, that's fine. But violence is never fine. And that's the place where I draw my line. So what do we do about that when there's violence? And that's where I've been. It's not that a different party than mine is elected. That's happened my whole life. Sometimes it's my party, sometimes it's the other party. That's the way it goes. It's the violence. And how do I respond when there's violence towards people that I love? That feels really scary. And I don't want to go into despair either. And then I go back, well, God's bigger than all of this. Where does this all fit? And the reason why I didn't want to talk today is because I haven't come up with an answer yet. I'm still working on it. So the only thing that I can say today is I believe in belonging where there is no othering. And I do believe there's hope. There's a gentleman who I know from Julian's past. He was one of the coaches, and he's a passionate Trump supporter. Aggressively attacks democratic principles. Fine. We're still friends. We've all, because prior to that, we had built up a friendship over the years. Really liked this guy, nicest guy. He's still a really nice guy, except on Facebook. And so there have been a few times over the years, so I'll point out when he's doing a specific, he's really aggressive attack, I'll say, I just want to remind you that you're talking about me and the people I love. And I know you're also Christian, and we talk about love your enemies. It feels uncomfortable. I don't get into policy, I don't get into debating. I'm just saying, this is really hard to hear from you. It's very scary to do that. He'll stop for a while. After the election, his first post was fine. Like, let's get to work, let's not gloat, let's get to work. Okay, cool. But then the next, he had another post that says, I'm losing a lot of friends. And then went on to do some name calling, and then there were the people in the comment section also joining in on the name calling, and it was terrifying. But I just put in there, because I know I'm like I'm the person that they're criticizing, not specifically me, but the value system, and I just put, well, maybe it's the name calling, like people are unfriending, and that's all I put. And then after I did it, I was like, oh no, every time I got on Facebook, I'm like, oh, please, because I'm afraid of like what the blowback's gonna be. But I didn't get any notifications, but a lot of times I don't, so that he could have responded and I don't know. But I thought, well, this morning, since I'm talking about it, I should at least go back and see what his response was. And also I had to brace myself for not only his response, but all the followers' response, what I was going to receive. I went to his page. His whole post was gone, and he was posting about other things, football games and things. I'm like, wow. And it's moments like that where I'm like, there's hope. There's hope. I didn't have to get into a policy argument. I didn't have to attack him. I was just saying, that name calling is pretty harsh, because that's where I begin to draw on the line. But then I had to be real with myself. I've seen people who agree with me also name call, and I don't call them out. I'll call him out. I'll say something to him, but because I agree with them, I just let it go. And I thought, would I say something to people who I agree with, who are aggressively attacking people, not saying I have a different perspective, or this is scary, or this is hurtful, or I'm afraid, but attacking with a violent energy, do I say something to them? And I'm like, all right, I've drawn a line in the sand for me, and no matter who is talking, if it's violent, I'm gonna say something. Because that gets to a place where it's not okay. And I don't want to respond violence with violence. I have a friend from way back who is a Democrat and said, and he was in the military. He goes, I'm ready. If the Republicans win, I am walking in military terms, he's walking the outground. He's watching for us. And my sense is he's ready to respond in kind. If there's violence, because there's a lot of fear of violence, I'm going to respond in violence. I'm like, oh no. I'm not for that either. Violence is the line where it crosses. Belonging without othering. There are so many videos, I've seen a few now of these videos of people who have preconceived ideas of how somebody is, and then they, the latest one was where it was a cowboy, and they had this whole preconceived idea of how this cowboy would help them with their car, and turned out just this incredibly kind person, and then invited them over for dinner, and they said, all my preconceptions dissolved. And that's what humanity really is. People are good. The universe is for us, as Ernest Holmes said. When we move out into the world, the universe is for us. People are good when we meet them. I start there. And then if they have a different perspective than me, then I might, that may not feel safe to hang out with them, but I'm not going to other them. I'm going to allow them. But I do have the one line of the violence. God first. God first. This isn't just, okay, do the God work, but now we're going to do the real work. No, the God work is the work in everything. We bring that God work into every conversation, into every relationship. The only way we don't do other, when I'm listening to him about belonging without othering, that's oneness. That is actual oneness lived. And that's what we're about. Isn't that what we're about? Yeah. Oneness lived, not just theoretically, not just oneness as long as everyone agrees with me. And then oneness, when we experience violence, we still can love from a distance, but also let people know, I can't do the violence. I can't do the violent speech. Because what we know in our teaching is words manifest. Maybe not always in the way we expect, but they manifest because words express ideas. Ideas, words, manifestation. That's our entire teaching. So if those words start to become violent, I need to say something. We say in our teaching, if someone says something that's not again, I remember learning this in foundations class, just say cancel. Like I won't accept that. We need to do that now. Love everybody. But when it starts crossing that line, cancel. Nope, not going there, and not going to be engaged in agreement on any level with violent ideas. Because we belong to each other. And I belong to everyone. And the only way I can belong to everyone is if we don't hurt one another. And so hurting each other is not okay. But loving everybody is exactly who and what God is as all of us. That's what our nature, our soul longs to do. We don't have to work at it. When we give our life to God, that's all we want to do. You with me? Yes. Well, I'm so glad. And for those who might not be with me, that's okay too. One of the things I'm learning over and over, because I said it in one talk like a year ago, and it surprised me, the response I got later. Just because I'm the minister here, I know the old idea is that everyone has to agree with everything I say. You don't have to agree with everything I say. We can have different perspectives in this community and respect the different perspectives. I'll end with this because I don't have the quote that Ernest Holmes said, but I think it's so brilliant, so I'm saying it not as clearly as he did, but freedom is about being able to be fully who you are, and it's all okay as long as you are not hurting yourself or anybody else. Everything is okay. You can have whatever perspectives you have. I can have the perspectives. We're all together. We can be different as long as we don't hurt anybody else or ourselves. We belong to each other. Let's pray. And when we pray, there's nothing more beautiful and extraordinary that in New Thought churches and communities all around the world. Wow. We all begin our prayers the same way. There is only one. It's extraordinary. People, millions and billions of people all over this world. There is only one. To consciously not know that just conceptually, but to feel that in our hearts, in our bodies, in our minds, in our souls. There is only one power, one presence, one love, one peace, one joy, the I am that is infused in, through, and as all creation, and yet never limited by any of that creation, that is absolutely free from all the human experience, and yet fully engaged in part of that human experience as the great I am, as this great infinite love intelligence that sees and knows through each of our eyes and our ears and our minds individually throughout the universe. That each and every one of us is born to be unique and to radiate this oneness and to feel that beautiful divine paradox of not one but not two. That we are all here collectively feeling the energy of this beautiful I am that I am, And yet it never limits our individuality, and our individuality never limits and separates us from one another. That our individual unique expression is a beautiful manifestation of the one life and the one power and the one presence. And that is what we are here to do. We are here to be that unique voice, to be that unique heart, to be that unique physical body, emotional body, mental body, soul, the depths of our soul. We are all here to be that now, in love with everybody and everything, in love with everyone and everything, and we can unite with people who have different views, and yet we can stand together as one. We unite with different soul expressions, people who show up on this earth so completely different than we'd ever show up, and delight in their differences, delight and celebrate our uniqueness, delight and celebrate our new ways of seeing and our unique ways of seeing, delight and allow each and every individual to be fully self-expressed. And yet to know each and every individual, just like in our families, we're still one. We're still one family. We're still one love. We hold this for our nation today. We hold this possibility that as we see even people who might frighten us, and at the same time, by speaking from our oneness and our heart, the separation can dissolve. And today, as we know in this oneness, for any group or individual even who feels they don't belong, we welcome you. We welcome everyone. We welcome everyone. Everyone belongs. There's no one outside of us. Everyone has a seat at the table. And we respect, and we see, and we hear you. And we love you. We love you. We see you. We hear you. We love you. We respect you. We see you. We hear you. We love you. We respect you. We see you. We hear you. We love you. Even as we respect, see, and hear all the different parts of ourselves. One power, one presence, one love. One power, one presence, one love. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. Thank you, infinite love intelligence. I am so grateful. And in deep abiding peace and infinite wisdom, I let this word be now and invite us all to say together, and so it is. Amen and amen.
I start my day with love. I start my day with love. That's what I get more of, is love. I start my day with love. I start my day with love. That's what I get more of, is love. With
God in all